Grimsby's trawler fleet used to land half the UK's fish, but it also provided a vital resource for the nation's rock fans. Many former fishing vessels became pirate radio ships, and now there's a campaign to save the last one. Hey, come here. Come. Look what I found.
A ship with the Emily Moore mast welded to its deck.
A ship that could smash its way through ice and with an engine so powerful it once towed a broken-down aircraft carrier.
It's a heavy metal hulk from Lincolnshire.
Quite possibly Grimsby's most famous pile of rust, the immortal and dead-hard Ross Revenge.
Yes, the ship that was the home of the hits for so many years had a previous life, harvesting the North Sea for your fish fingers.
Wow, this is fantastic.
In her fishing days, the Ross Revenge was a world-beating super trawler, the mothership of the Lincolnshire fleet.
Grimsby thought of everything. They even put a periscope in case you sank. Which they did.
More of that later, pop pickers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the legend moves on. This is Caroline.
But first, the history of pop radio. Let's rock.
If you were young and hip in the early 1960s, like me, listening to the BBC was, well, dull.
Radio Caroline. The legend lives on.
Anchored out at sea was the home of the hits, pirates playing pop. And Radio Caroline's first ship led the way. It was a radio revolution.
Dear old Beeb seemed to have missed what we all knew, that this was a happening and groovy time.
We wanted the Animals, the Stones, the Dave Clark Five. They gave us the Northern Dance Orchestra.
Under the covers, without our parents' knowledge, we secretly tuned in to the saviours of radio.
And in amongst the crackle and the hiss, a truly great DJ.
Going back in time on the sounds of the nation.
Playing the best music you'd ever heard in your life.
It coincided with everything else that went on in the 60s, the great music explosion, Carnaby Street, the fashion, the invention of transistor radios, all these things all came together. And it was just a wonderful time to be young.
Caroline, the sound of the nation. Caroline, the sound of the land.
There was just this feeling of connection with all these people that you knew were listening on land.
Caroline, the sound of our nation.
Man, that's groovy.
We liked it, but the old men in suits didn't.
Mr. Wedgwood Benn, the Postmaster General, has already pronounced on the pirates.
They're stealing the copyright and paying no money for it.
Here they are, the happiest criminals in town.
A new law was passed which overnight outlawed the pop pirates.
You went on air at midnight, didn't you, or just after the act came in? Do you remember that?
Oh, would I ever forget it?
This is Radio Caroline. It is now 12 midnight.
I said, Caroline will continue, Caroline belongs to you, Caroline loves you. We had a lot of love going on between our audience and the radio station.
We intend to stay on the air because we belong to you and we love you. Caroline continues.
I really believed that we weren't doing any harm, that millions of people, loved the station, loved what we did, and it was wrong to close it down.
Johnny and a handful of colleagues became outlaws as they carried on broadcasting.
Radio Caroline sailed on defiant till the end, which sadly came when it ran out of money and sank.
So with one old ship under the channel, you would think it was all over. How wrong could you be?
But this is the tale of the second coming of Radio Caroline, a battle of epic proportions between ministry men and pirates, a battle that required a mighty ship.
The Caroline bosses bought big. Grimsby's Ross Revenge.
Radio Caroline broadcasting from the Ross Revenge on the North Sea.
To stay legal, the new Caroline ship had to anchor just over 3 miles offshore, outside UK territorial waters. In a big ship like the Ross, it was easy, so the government changed the rules.
The Ross had to move out to sea to remain beyond the law. She anchored in open sea, in a shipping lane, open to all the elements. She was unbelievably vulnerable.
A mighty storm was brewing.
Seas were mountainous.
The lifeboat is standing by. We're not leaving.
The crew and DJs were airlifted to safety as the Ross Revenge drifted onto the notorious Goodwin Sands.
We'll be back.
Riders on the storm.
They never made it back, and the ship's radio days were over. She was eventually towed back to port, sad and silent.
I think it's got to a stage it deserves to survive. You know, it's gone through its trials. It's a bit of an old lady now, but it's still serviceable, and we can use it. And it's got a charisma when you walk around it, based on basically what it's been through.
Oh, I don't believe it. The record library's intact. Oh, this is fantastic.
When you're on board the Ross Revenge, you sense that this is a really special ship, and Grimsby ought to be extremely proud of it.
Oh, well, we'll have this for radio, Rick. Ah, just the job. I think we have a radio show.
OK, Johnny Walker, watch out, because it's Rick on the decks.
That was Toto in Africa, and this is Rick on Radio Caroline. Oh boy, this is fantastic.
Radio Caroline. The legend lives on.
And I'm going to prison.
Radio Caroline.
Right, folks, it's time to meet the Yorkshire man who keeps this old crate going. The Fred Dibner of the Pirates, whose extensive knowledge of spanners, pistons, hydraulic pumps and cylinder heads is legendary. Ladies and gentlemen, from Carverley, West Yorkshire, Peter Clayton and his new grease monkey.
Right, Rick. So this is what it's all about.
No, it isn't. It ain't moving.
Dinosaurs.
I say this in the nicest sense. You're a true anorak, aren't you, of pirate radio and all this?
Yes, you can see it here. It's not a big hood. And it's full of water.
What do you love about the pirate radio and what it stands for?
It's the freedom thing, isn't it? I think when you were brought up in my age group, everybody was a sameness. We all went to school with the same uniform. We all did the same things on the night. Around the 60s, pirate radio started. The world changed for us all.
Most weekends, Peter and a team of helpers spend their time happily looking into an oily hole.
Will you be the one to fire her up?
Oh, what? I don't think there's anybody left that knows how to.
Do you feel it's got a spirit of its own?
Oh, this has. Yeah, this ship lives.
When I pulled up by the side of this boat, it was just, it was a heart flutter. It was just, oh boy. I think every musician today, whether they're young or old like me, owe an incredible debt of gratitude to Radio Caroline. There should be preservation orders on boats, the same as there are on buildings. This should be a Grade 1 listed vessel.
I'd like to think it was free to see the open sea again sometime. I mean, it could be a fully working ship again. Wouldn't be difficult at all, and people just love looking around it. I've seen people actually step on the ship and burst into tears with the emotion of it all.
Do you miss it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But I'm just glad that I lived through that time, and I've got the memories. And it's amazing that here we are still talking about it 40 years later.
It would be an absolute travesty if this boat was ever scrapped or not looked after. It's the only one left, and we're too good at destroying history, and this truly is music and radio history.
Radio Caroline, the legend lives on.
We have felt your love over the last few days. The bad company getting us underway.
Rick Wakeman, all at sea, ending this week's Inside.